Welcome to the Virginia Carolina Deer Tracts podcast. I'm Mike Davis.
And I'm Shawn Mills.
And we're here to talk about everything real estate
and the great outdoors
in both Virginia
and North Carolina.
Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Welcome back to the latest and greatest edition of the Virginia Carolina Deer Tracts podcast. I'm here with my good buddy
Shawn Mills.
Yeah, that's still him. And today we have a special guest with us. We have Mr. Bear Davidson, a fellow United Country agent here in Virginia. Welcome, Bear.
I appreciate it. I just want to say thank you, guys. I've been here 9 months, and you finally let me come on your podcast. So I don't know what's taking so long. I was kind of like leading into it every time. Hey guys, like maybe we should do a podcast.
Well,
like,
you had to get through your probationary
it's a screening period.
We really weren't sure if you were one of us.
They call that the hazing period.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in our defense, there are other agents that have been here longer.
Do they even know this is going on?
Nobody knows. This is just for our own personal.
It's like the secret tree house when you're a kid, like the little rascals have. That's what this is.
Knocked 3 times.
Wait till we show you the handshake. It's crazy.
Or the initiation bill. It's like, just write us a check for $20,000.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, we have jumped right into the shenanigans. But before we get too much further into that, Bear, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who is Bear Davidson?
Yeah, we're going to get deep right off the bat. So you said it. My name is Bear Davidson. I'm a United Country Virginia Realty agent here in Southern Virginia, right on the North Carolina border. I live up Madison County, Virginia. I'm about 3 hours north of here. I grew up in Pennsylvania, southeastern PA, and to divorced parents, I spent time out west with my father during the summers, and then I spent the school year with my mother, and graduated high school and decided college football was the way to go. Went and played college football, and then started working in the ag industry, Texas Longhorn industry, as what my father was involved in, and graduated college and dove into that for 13 years. I managed one of the largest Texas Longhorn operations in the United States. Started a consulting business, started a sales and promotions company, and realized I wasn't going to retire doing that. So at 38 years old, I decided to get into real estate. And I think, my story is probably similar to your guys's in a sense where...
did you just hear his resume? This is why you're not on this podcast.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack.
Wow, that's awesome, man, for real.
Well,
yes.
But in the same breath with you guys, like I wanted something more. And we talk about find your freedom and things like that with UC. It's not just for the buyers and sellers that we're working with. It's also for us. Growing up, I'd see guys, and I always kind of joked around that if I got to do life again or differently, like I'd become a real estate agent or an insurance salesman, because everybody who I came in contact with that had a lifestyle that I wanted always seemed to be a real estate agent or an insurance agent. And I'm very much a freedom type of person. I'm not a 9-to-5 guy. I never have been. It worked out. I got so lucky finding this place, finding you guys, where the when I left the ranching world, and it was an abrupt end. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I serve on the national board for National Wild Turkey Federation, and one of our board members, Chris Hinkle out of Arkansas, is also a real estate agent. So I was talking to Chris at one of our board meetings. I mean, I left the ranching industry on a Wednesday and went down to Georgia for one of our board meetings. And Chris and I were talking about podcasts, and he sent me one of the podcasts that he was on, and he was telling a story how I became an agent. And at that point, I had to go to Texas for some work, and called Chris on my way out there and said, "Here's what I know about being a real estate agent. Like, fill in the blanks." So 3 hours later, he's like, "Hey, like, you want to come to Arkansas?" And I was like, "Not really." He said, "Give me a few days. Let me call you back." And so he called me back with Bill Baker's information. He said, "Everybody I talked to says this is the man you need to speak with." And because Chris's big thing was, hunting, ranching, that's what you need to sell. You don't need to be selling townhouses in Arlington, Virginia. You need to sell what you know. And he said, everybody I speak with says this guy's a legend. This is the guy you need to talk to. And
let me interrupt you just for 1 second. For those of you who don't know who Bill Baker is, we've actually had him on the podcast, one of our first episodes, but he is our broker in charge of this office, so that's who he's referencing there.
And he used to be, as far as up in corporate in Kansas City, Missouri. When we go to like United Power, which is a whole national thing, everybody refers to him as one of the
the legend.
Four wise men amongst the whole company.
And that was it. That it's not just within UC. Like, I mean, that's outside of UC. Other real estate companies, other real estate areas. They recognize that with Bill. And so the information I had gotten, I got an address, an email, and a phone number. And so I shot him an email with my resume, and I was very transparent. I was going through a really tragic time in my life. And I needed a win. And I got nothing. I got crickets. And so one day I was like, forget about it. I put my suit on, got my resume. I'm like, I'm driving to his place and I'm going to introduce myself. The address that I was given was Tony Flory's address, which is another agent of ours here at UC Virginia Realty. And I was heartbroken when I pulled up and it was just a farm. And I was like, man, I cannot win. And so I made a phone call, left them a message, and a few hours later I was sitting in Starbucks because that was the only place I could get internet service where they wouldn't run me out doing work. And Bill had called me and we talked for about 4 hours, which, as you guys know, Bill, like, he doesn't talk for 4 hours.
I was going to say, how did you pull that off?
Gotta go by. So and I bared everything to him. I bared what I was going through in my life. I was going through a pending separation and divorce with my wife. I left the career that I had for 13 years, my entire adult life. It was as bad as it could get for a man. And I needed a win. And, Bill, I tell him all the time, I'm like, you saved me because I didn't know what I was going to do. And I'd like to think it was dumb luck but I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, David Blanton from Realtree, and one of the things that we always say back and forth to each other is that there's no coincidences. Like, it's not a coincidence, and I just lucked out that I'd like to think I lucked out that I got here, but it's not a coincidence.
No,
so. Well, how about that? We usually like to keep things light and airy here on the podcast.
I told you it was about to get deep.
My man's about to make me cry up in here, man. Damn.
So it's I'm grateful to be here with you guys, and I know I made the joke, but being the new agent within the organization and having you guys to look up to, I certainly appreciate it. So.
Not many people look up to me.
Mike beat me to that one. So
yeah, I wasn't talking.
I had to say it before Shawn said
physically. Yeah.
No,
well, we are glad to have you.
What you were talking about, what we get to do as far as agents and all. It's not a week goes by where we're doing something in the field. Me and Mike were out there the other day. We're either hanging cameras or we're doing videos over here on this hunting property looking for rubs or it's just crazy the fact that we literally get to do what we love for a living.
Yeah. I was looking at a property a couple weeks ago, cruising this big property in Nelson County, Virginia. And I was like, oh, I conveniently have a turkey call in my pocket, and just walking around and yelping and just waiting for something to cut off and gobble at me. But I can't believe I get to spend my days doing that.
It's awesome. No doubt. No doubt. Definitely, for me personally, I agree with the find your freedom thing. That is part of how I found my freedom, was coming here and being able to do what we do every day, and it's just what we love.
I can say at this table, all three of us definitely have an appreciation for it for good reason. I mean, from your job and what you're going through, and I worked factory 12-hour shifts. You worked 7 days a week, pretty much. I mean, it was. It's crazy change to go to this, and it's like, why wasn't I doing this the whole time?
Yeah. I mean, this is a results-based business. Like, you could work 40 hours or you can work 35 hours, get the same amount of work done or more. Just depends on how efficient and effective you are.
Right.
So it's not necessarily about the hours that you put in. It's about the results that you get. The downside to guys like us is we like results. So if we can get the same results in 20 hours that the average person can get in 40 hours, well, what can we get in 60 hours? Mm-hmm. And so then it becomes a whole different juggle where, hey, you got to pull yourself back.
Next thing you know, your hunting season's over.
Yeah, just like,
I finally manage it, but
yep. It's you get caught up in that.
Well, a couple points I want to get back to from your beginning conversation. You did mention that you're on the national board of the National Wild Turkey Federation.
Yep. Yes,
so
sir.
let's talk about that a little bit. How on earth did you find yourself in that position?
I'd like to think my fat mouth got me there, right? So,
well, that's kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah. So I got involved with the National Wild Turkey Federation in 2017. I went to my first banquet, and just as a banquet goer, and we had the ranch that I was running. We had moved ranches about an hour south, and knew nobody in that area, right? I'm a transplant anyway, so I lived and worked on the ranch that we ran, so I didn't get out much. And then when we moved an hour south, I had to make contacts. I didn't know, where do you get your tires from? Like, what if you have an issue? Who do you call? Just like simple little things that you don't really realize that's important to you, and especially not knowing anybody because, if you move to a town where you have friends or family and they have all those contacts, well, we had nothing. So I figured I'd go to a local banquet and I'd meet some people. And I went in there with the agenda to meet people and to basically I wanted to meet more hunters and maybe I could find some places to go turkey hunting. So I went to this little banquet and they had an auction, live auction, and stuff wasn't going for very much money. So I was buying it and then just donating it back. Sell it again. Who's the youngest kid in there? We'd buy a big knife and I'd ask all the little kids to come up and the youngest kid got the knife, right? The parents loved that. But by the end of the night, I had everybody sticking their business card in my pocket. So right off the bat, I had contacts with everybody. The next year, 2018, I went as a sponsor. Bought a table at the local banquet. And then they kind of put a call out of anybody who would be interested in helping. And with our sales and promotions company, we're always running events. We're always trying to be more efficient, more effective, more profitable. And so that was right up my alley. I love that. So I jumped on the local committee. And we just took off. We started setting records right off the bat in the state of Virginia. We ran a $100,000 net event for the first time in 30 years in Virginia's history. And NWTF started in Virginia. In Fredericksburg, Virginia was where it was founded. So Virginia's kind of always been the heart of it, although we lost that for a little bit. And so we did the first $100,000 net. We did it again the second year. We just started setting records as a local chapter. In 2023, on the 50-year anniversary of the NWTF, we set a historical record of net fundraising in one night. The previous record was $196,000, and we did over $300,000 in one night. And we had set the challenge out as a local chapter to other chapters, right? There's roughly right now 1,100 local chapters for the National Wild Turkey Federation in the country. We set the challenge out to other chapters to beat us. Come and get it. And we're a small community. Madison County is about 13,500 people, ag-based. The school's probably the largest employer of the area outside of farming. And so in doing that challenge, there was 3 other chapters that broke 200. Now, for 50 years, nobody's been able to break 200. And in 1 year, 4 of us did. And so that was really cool. This was in 2020, the state of Virginia was getting ready to elect its new president of the state chapter. And we had a good guy out of Suffolk, John Joyner, who was in the running. And John has been involved in the state of Virginia's chapter since the 2000s. And John was hesitant about getting involved on the state level to run for state president. And I got a call from a gentleman by the name of Robin Clark. I remember exactly where I was. I was on I-35 in southern Kansas heading to Oklahoma. And Robin calls me and he says, "Hey, John's going to run for president. I said, awesome. He said, John wants you to run for vice president. I said, ain't happening. And my thought was, man, I was only been involved for about 3 years at that point. Like, who am I? What am I? And where I caught myself is that we would go to events and I would say, we could do better. Like, we can do better. I can do better than this. And so kind of when you get called out on that, like, you either got to put up or shut up. So I said, yeah, I'm in. And I was state vice president of Virginia for less than a year before the national board recruited me to come to the national board. So, which I'm very humbled by it. I'm very proud by it. I'm the youngest board member by like 20 years in the history of the NWTF. NWTF has really changed its focus on its leadership and really working hard to get hard workers in there, and I'm proud of that. And that was part of it. Park Shackelford, who is a Virginia National Board member, who's now the president of our board. Parks was the one that was kind of leading the charge on my recruitment, which is funny because nobody knew, right? Because you could, in hindsight, looking back, yeah, he was recruiting, but the biologists, NWTF biologists, all the other, John Joyner, our state president, those guys had no idea that the questions of he's asking, why he's asking, because nobody thought that was going to happen, right? There's kind of channels that you move through, and to jump through these channels and kind of pull somebody out, that never really happened. So nobody expected that to happen. So when Parks offered me the opportunity, he said, hey, we really want you to be on the national board. And really my first two, or my only question is why me? Because if you're just looking for a young face, I was like, that's not fair. That's not fair to the people who deserve to be on this board. I understand I have a marketable name. I've always had a marketable name.
It's pretty badass, man. I gotta admit.
Well, it's great in some instances. When you were a kid, it was terrible because if you did something wrong, everybody knew who it was, right? It wasn't like, oh, I think it was John or Jim or Steven. Like, no, it was Bear. Like, oh, that little son of a gun. So I was worried that that was trying to be leveraged. And especially with, my oldest sister's a litigation attorney, worked extremely hard to get where she was or where she is. And the idea of bringing people in to fill positions that just check boxes, like, I didn't want to be that. And so Parks handled that objection like I knew Parks could or would. And I had no other questions. I was like, I'm in, man. So off we ran.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah. You know, we talk all the time in our business and what we do as agents, that we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. This is the lifestyle we live, the lifestyle we love. Just another prime example right here. I mean, the man's on the national board of the National Wild Turkey Federation. So I guess I'll say all that to what I'm really saying is, you know, we are legit.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny because they're I hope everybody feels this way. Maybe I'm different in it. Like, I haven't seen a piece of property that I've listed where I'm not like, yeah, I could own this. And then I'm like, how can I own this?
That's right. That's what we hope it don't sell before turkey season.
Yeah. Look at my recent deal.
Yeah. Maybe they'll take a really low ball offer from me just because they like me so much. There hasn't been a property like that in so like, and I was telling Bill, I was telling some buddies of mine, I'm like, this could be a real problem because like, it's almost like you're working for the next meal. Like all of a sudden you know, as an agent, you can build enough wealth where you can afford a property, and then all of a sudden, like, you don't have any money anymore. Like, you got to get back to work. So yeah, that's I love it. Like, yeah, it's like you said, this is who we are. I don't know. It's in the cattle industry, raising cattle. Like, we weren't raising cows. We were raising grass. Like, cows were the byproduct of that. And I feel like in this industry, especially from the UC hunting property side, is that we're almost like surfer bums. Right?
Never heard of it.
I'm dressed like one right now.
Hear me out on this. All right, so we're almost like surfer bums where we want the freedom, but we got to figure out how to pay the bills. And without giving up too much of our freedom, this might be a plug for somebody to become a realtor. Without giving up too much freedom, we're still able to pay the bills. And the freedom for me is like, I want to go turkey hunting. I want to go deer hunting. I want to go dove hunting. I want to go elk hunting. Like when the phone call comes, hey, those birds are gobbling. Like, can you be here tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, it's 9 hours. If I leave right now, I'll be there. I'll have a half hour of sleep. I'm in. Like, let's go. And thankfully, we work for, I'm not going to just say a family that understands that. That's what makes us tick, and that adds value to our business. That adds value to us as people. We're not working for the weekend. We're not working for vacation. We get to live and make a living.
That's it. My first year here, I don't know if I've said this story or not, but my first year here, I worked at factory and didn't have any time off like talking about. Well, anyway, first year I ended up going turkey hunting in Chadron, Nebraska. Went deer hunting in Saskatchewan. Went on a trip to Jamaica all of my first year, and I just didn't know what to do with myself to have that kind of freedom. Well, then all of a sudden the market kind of hit a spike, and I mean all those listings started coming, deals were going down everywhere, and we love what we do, and it just becomes a part of it. And then next thing you know, you're looking back going, wait a minute, I didn't go on a hunting trip this year. But I'm gonna make up for it this time.
Yeah,
it drives you though. It's like you say,
made a couple trips to my farm. Damn it.
Well, surprise. We're hoping. I was telling Shawn this. We were talking about, hey, we need turkey hunt. Like Virginia season's youth season's this weekend, and then regular season opens up a week from then. And I come down to the office. I try to come down once a week. It's a 3-hour drive one way. I come down in the morning and I leave in the evening. And I told Shawn, I was like, I'll start coming down like the evening before. I just need a couch, like a bathroom. Like they're my two bugaboos. And and then like maybe we'll come in a little late the next morning. So smelling like a thermocell and some spent powder. So
I don't think you'd get objections from either one of us on that.
No.
So real quick, I do want to tie in a couple of other things with the NWTF and something else you mentioned earlier. We were all recently down in Austin, Texas, or right outside of Austin, Texas, for the United Country National Convention. Mm-hmm. And I just do want to mention a couple of exciting things that are coming out of the pipeline there. One, thanks to Bear's involvement, is a relationship between United Country and the NWTF. I think the details are still.
So there is details to them, but we haven't. The UC hasn't done a rollout to all the agents yet. So, but as far as I'm aware, there is no NGO, non-government organization, no conservation organization that has a relationship with a real estate company like we have with UC and NWTF. And I was telling you guys earlier, when I became an agent, and it wasn't until after I became an agent that this crossed my mind, but I struggled. I was kind of in a little conundrum where I like big spaces. I like big farms, big spaces, big places, wild spots. And as an agent, sometimes you get blamed for the developments moving in, and you get blamed for the farms getting broken up and things like that. So I kind of struggle with that a little bit. But when you look at what UC stands for and, our history, it's, we live this country lifestyle. And with the NWTF, with the hunting heritage, like it's the same thing. We understand why people want a spot that has a little ridge where those turkeys are going to roost and those birds are going to gobble. And we understand the value of having some thick bedding area within your property and some pinch points and some dirty hedgerows and things like that. Like we see value in that, not just as hunters, but as agents too. So to form that partnership, I'm super excited for, especially because, the 250,000 members that make up the National Wild Turkey Federation, with plans over the next 10 years to be over 500,000, that those are our people. Like that's who we are. I'm super excited about how that's going to grow. So
Cool. I can't wait to see the official rollout. It's pretty exciting. And the other thing from the convention was the unification of the UC hunting properties with the Realtree United Country. So that was pretty exciting. I know you mentioned David Blanton earlier. He was actually there for the announcement and kind of, shaking some hands and stuff. That was pretty cool.
So yes, Realtree had some of their marketing crews there, and I mean it's the same thing, right? Their mission and their vision and their culture is the same thing that we are, right? And I'm not going to say we're all country folks, because we're not all country folks, but we all appreciate the country lifestyle and what that offers, and that fits right in with Realtree's motto of family, friends, and the outdoors. And I'm super excited about that too, because when you start joining forces together, whether it's National Wild Turkey Federation, Realtree, United Country, when you start taking these groups and being able to leverage them, like, man, our hunting heritage is under attack. Right, the people that are against what we stand for are organized, they're funded, and they're passionate, right? And it's the same thing that we are, but they might be a little bit more organized. They might be a little bit more funded. They're not more passionate, I can tell you that much. Mm. But when you can put three groups together and work towards that that goal, and I just read a quote from Theodore Roosevelt this weekend, and it was talking about how essentially what we have is we're growing this for our kids, right? That this isn't ours, right? It wasn't given to us. We're growing it for our kids. And so to be able to protect that lifestyle, that hunting heritage, that country lifestyle, we all stand for that. So to get with great companies like Realtree, NWTF, I mean, we're able to leverage our friends. Now we have more friends.
Yeah.
So.
And not to get on a soapbox, but once that stuff is gone,
you don't get it back.
We're not getting it back.
And one of the things too about it is always that thing. We like to see the land stay as a whole, stay in the families and all. But some of these tracts we deal with, 200, 300, 400 acres. When we do break them up, a lot of times it's 50-acre blocks, 100-acre blocks, and that guy that buys it would love to be able to buy the whole thing.
He just can't afford it.
Can't afford it. But you look at that 50 acres to him compared to the apartment he was living in downtown, you might as well have just gave him 1,000 acres.
Absolutely.
It's still that same enthusiasm.
So I had a mentor. He's a great friend of mine, family friend, love him to death, named Rob Fenza, who was a chief operating officer of Liberty Property Trust, which at the time that he was running it was the largest commercial real estate company in the world. And Rob has a bunch of farms, a bunch of property, everything's in conservation easement. And so I'd asked him about my little conundrum of, liking these big spaces, open spaces, wild spaces, and then being an agent. I said, Rob, how did you deal with that as a developer, right? As basically a commercial landlord, office buildings, things like that. And he said he struggled with it too. But what it came down to for him is that it was happening, whether he was going to do it or not. But at least while he had control of it, he was able to steer it in a direction that was beneficial to what he believed in. And that was open spaces, preserving landscapes, things like that. Not just taking a whole block and developing it, taking it and adding some trees and some landscapes in it and things like that. And not just kind of paving over paradise, so to speak. So, to your point, Shawn, that's exactly right. I mean, it's not that guy wouldn't want that 1,000 acres. But maybe he just can't afford it. Maybe he can only afford 20 acres. And that means the world to him that he has those 20 acres. And I'm in the same spot now. I mean, I live on 3 acres, right? Now I live in Madison County, Virginia, which is incredibly rural. It's great. It's great because we're about 30 minutes from Charlottesville. We haven't had that creep come up yet. I got a 6-year-old little girl. I would love to have 80 acres or 100 acres. And that's what I'm working towards, is to have those spaces for, right? I'd love to have 1,000 acres, but that's just not in the cards at this point someday. But
You need a good agent.
Yeah, you guys might know a guy. You said good agent.
We're out.
Where's
we're
Chandler?
Looked at me when you said that. He looked at me.
Where's Chandler?
It made eye contact.
We'll go back and we'll look at the video footage for proof on that. We'll see.
I got to throw in one more thing.
There's gonna be a bleep through there.
Yeah, we may do a little editing.
Lost
there.
recording.
One of the great things I do love about our job, though, is those little hidden honey holes you do find, though. When we're sitting here, I was so excited about it. Like, I sold a 330-acre farm. Thrilled about it. All of a sudden, a buddy of mine calls me up about 16 acres in the city of Danville, and I'm going, what am I going to do with 16 acres? Well, then we see what's on camera there.
Yeah, you see those camera photos.
And it's got, literally, out of all the properties I've seen come through here, that has it's the second or first biggest buck of any footage I've seen in the last 4 years come to this office. It's on 16 acres in the city of Danville.
So Kurt Heading, who's one of our UC hunting properties guys, I was listening to a podcast that he was doing, and he said, you show me a picture of a 200-inch deer, I will have a list of buyers for you. It doesn't matter where it's at, when it is. Like, you show me a picture of a 200-inch deer.
Those appraisers say you can't put a price tag on those bucks, and I just stare at them and just like, watch me.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. So that's the world we're living in. It's changed, right? It's changed the real estate world. And as a new agent, right, I come from an outside perspective. It's absolutely changed the world. Where I was born, where my father lived in Oklahoma, that land is leasing for incredible amounts. More so than what the ranchers can pay just for hunting properties, and they're kicking the cows off of it, and the people are paying the back taxes on it because it's more profitable to lease it to hunting than it is to lease it to ranchers and get the ag exemption on the property. So
wow.
You look at you were talking about Arkansas. When I went out there, I mean, every rice field had a blind on it. I'll say that.
Yeah. As you're driving I-40 through Arkansas, there's and Iowa fights at Texas. Texas is, that's where deer management began. Yeah. And they have, everything's high fenced, and people look down on that, and I can understand it, but unless you go do it, and you're in a 5,000 acre high fence property where there are deer that never even see the fence, and there are deer that you never even see. Friends of mine, they got to fly helicopters just to do deer surveys because they have bucks that they've never gotten on camera, that they've never seen in person, because they just live in that thick stuff, and they're like, we don't gotta go anywhere. Like, we got a little pond over here, we got a little feeder over here, like we know where the blinds are, and we know how it's managed. They just kind of sit tight and hold tight, and Texas is so leased out, so balled up. You go to South Texas where that ground was bringing nothing, and now it's tremendous value for the hunting property, just the leasing side of it. Kansas, Oklahoma's becoming a big buck state now. Colorado has landowner tags what's the program? Ranching for Wildlife, where if you allow your property to get into a draw system, then you can get tags back. New Mexico isn't in that yet. As far as I know, they're fighting that because that's how New Mexico has landowner tags that they can then sell and profitize off of for elk and deer and turkey and things of that nature. Montana's land prices, out west, is just blowing up with thanks to Yellowstone and things of that nature. But the recreational side of things, there's a guy who, when I was in New Mexico elk hunting, local rancher, and he paid $60 an acre for his ground. And so as a cow man, I'm like, I don't care about that. What's your stocking rates? How many cows can you run on this ground? And he says, well, it's based on the inches of rain. And he says, per section, we can run that many cows on how many inches of rain we get, right? So in a square mile, they can only run 13 cows.
Wow.
And I was like, man, like back east, we can, on a good rotation, we can run 2 cows an acre. You got 640 acres, and you can only run 13 cows on. I was like, that's insane. But when we talk about cow units at $60 an acre, it's running him about $3,600 per cow. That's not bad. That's really good, especially when you come back east and it's $10,000, $20,000 an acre. So that ground jumped up to $1,000 an acre as recreational hunting ground. Mm-hmm. And still not a lot of money. $1,000 an acre. Back here, if somebody was selling ground for $1,000 an acre, like it would be gone so quick. But out there, you can't ranch on that. It comes up so high that value has increased, and we live in a strange world right now, right? The recreational side, having secondary ground that people can go enjoy, especially with COVID, when people can now don't have to work at an office building anymore. They can travel, they can work outside of their area. They can telecommunicate with Zoom and things like that. It's really changed, our ability as real estate agents to market to a whole different realm of people. And then you add in the aspect that, hunting access has certainly changed over the last 30 years. And people buying those 50-acre spots that they can hunt on has become real valuable to them. So,
yeah. Man, that's a lot to take in. I think we kind of hit a spot where we probably got to wrap this up.
I got one more question.
Okay, go for it, man.
All right, look, last year I'm very disappointed to say this. We didn't go a lot, but I was unable to get Mike a turkey. But I've already got a fear because when I took my son hunting, we had a gobbler come in. He couldn't see the bird. I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, shoot him. 2:00. He never did see him because, he's lowered to the ground. Do you have any, seats or something we can bring for Mike to sit to make sure that doesn't happen? Because when that opportunity presents itself, I don't want any excuses.
I tell you what, have him sit in your lap, and that way you can look right over his shoulder. I'll come in video.
See, I was seeing this as a real opportunity to develop a turkey booster seat.
Yeah,
that would be a marketable product that we could patent. And
I could see it. There'd be the malfunction, and all of a sudden it just shoots somebody up in the air. We don't have it calibrated.
We're
right.
gonna have to get two of them though, because I'm gonna take his knees out in just a second.
He's gonna need a seat,
and he's gonna have some similar struggles.
Take him in on the wheelchair.
Yeah, just roll him downhill.
We got to do a video of this. This is gonna be awesome.
Oh.
Well, on that note, turkey season is right around the corner. We're all super excited about it. I certainly hope that we will get the opportunity to hunt together and get some video footage and all that kind of stuff. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. Bear, appreciate you.
Thank you,
taking
guys.
time out of your
Appreciate
day
you
to
guys.
visit with us today. Very interesting guy. If you are looking to do some business in real estate up the Madison County way, Bear is a great guy to reach out to. We'll put your contact information.
Appreciate that.
If you want to throw your number out, go for it.
Yep, 540-687-0050. So as Colonel Bill says, we're from the Blue Ridge to the Chesapeake and from the Potomac all the way down. He says the Carolina line, but heck, we're a lot further south than that.
That's
So.
right. That's right. Shawn, you got anything else?
Nope, we out.
Peace.
Thank you, guys.